What is up, you guys?
Hello.
Estamos de vuelta con un episodio más de...
No, pues, wow.
No, pues, wow.
Thank you for joining us one more time.
Una vez más.
Una vez más, aquí con nuestras locuras.
Estamos de nuevo en un capítulo más. Contentísimas de estar aquí.
Yep.
Muchas gracias por su presencia y su attendance. El día de hoy, Michelle, we have a packed but short episode because it's one of our goals, you know, to start kind of decreasing down the time and increasing the
Content. Yeah, for you guys.
So depth.
Yeah. El día de hoy tenemos acompañados unos cafecitos.
Cafecitos.
Pero no nomás es un simple cafecito.
Está cargadito.
Está cargadito.
Usualmente el cafecito yo me lo tomo con azúcar nomás, pero el día de hoy está con poquito whisky para calentar la sangre también. Salud.
Salud.
Saludcita.
Ups, ya le tomé. Yo ya le había tomado.
Ay,
I'm
perdón.
sorry. Whoops.
Y acompañado con nuestro cafecito, Michelle nos trajo unos...
Listen, I don't have conchas. But I did have some poppy seed. Poppy seed. Bread. I was gonna say muffin because that's usually the ones I get from Costco. But actually, this was like a bread, like a loaf of bread.
Loaf.
Yeah, a loaf.
Okay.
Y pues las
Madeleines,
or what are
Madeleines. Las Madelines.
Sabrá Dios.
¿Sí las conocen?
Las que están bien ricas. I'm so sorry, I'm just a
Las
mess
Madelinas.
today.
No, pues es que salimos de trabajar.
Sí.
Para los que no saben, ella trabaja en un banco y yo soy carpintera. Yay. Y miren, llegué en mi ropa de trabajo. Traigo aquí, miren nada más. Para medir el número de pendejadas que vamos a decir el día de hoy. ¿Ok? But anyways, you guys, we're so excited to be back. And today, we have a loaded topic, Michelle.
It is. It quite is. I was actually really excited. I feel like we're finally starting to... We've talked about like machismo and we've talked about a lot of like our cultural things. However, we're finally breaking down into like the
Mental health.
micro, I guess, subtopics of all of these.
Sí.
We touched very briefly on the macros, and I think that we're honing down on the little subcategories of all of those things.
Yep, for sure. And without further ado, today's topic is going to be suppression of feelings in Mexican culture and how it affects relationships, socialization, and everyday life. This could be in teens, this can be in children, but everything comes from your roots, right? Tus raíces, la importancia.
Exacto.
And as I was analyzing this topic, I was looking for research articles because that's what I do as an academic. I like to research things, but not just go on Google and Wikipedia. It's more so like, okay, what are people talking about? What is coming up about the subject? And I found this very interesting article. It was a research article. And Michelle, tú también traes uno, ¿verdad?
Yeah. We'll see what we can contribute to the episode because, you know, we're trying to cut down on the time and we want to make it impactful for you guys. And
so basically, this article is titled...
Well, and... Okay, go ahead and finish.
Yeah.
I wanted to, before we touch into the actual facts of that, I wanted to see if maybe we can take just a very brief minute, like talking about what has been your personal experience when it comes down to like you personally and then me personally, just
emotional
before we
suppression.
get into the actual facts.
Well, we can start by defining what emotional suppression is in Mexican culture.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I think, in my opinion, emotional suppression is when... for example, my parents, you know, you have feelings and you feel certain ways and your parents are always like, échale ganas, no te preocupes, no llores. Like it's endless amounts of times where my dad's been like, no llores, ¿por qué lloras? And it's like, 'cause I'm fucking sad.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that the reason why I wanted to talk about the impact of emotional suppression is because thinking about how kids are raised up in a Mexican household,
right,
and how that affects their future. And emotional suppression is one of these things where it's like, if you're not talking about your feelings because your parents don't, then who do you talk to about your feelings to?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, and this is something that's very, I really don't know. I'm not in Mexico per se to see how it is day to day, but I could only imagine based on the time frame that I was there. And it's just something that's like non-existent,
Yeah.
I feel like, and I'll try to see if I can find the, I do. And the one, I did find it. I'm so sorry. I'm just rambling here. But I read an article from this girl, and she is also Hispanic, but she was working with like a Hispanic community. Her name is Daisy Novoa Vasquez. And she wrote this, and she said, there is a big taboo. And if someone does go to like a therapist, it's like there's a big taboo when it comes down to talking emotions. And then it says if someone does go to a therapist, he or she usually hides it. You know what I mean? If they do.
Like es una cosa tan negativa.
Exacto.
El puto alcoholismo aquí de frente. La adicción al cigarro aquí de frente con los mexicanos, ¿no? Pero si les dices a alguien, estoy en terapia, voy a la oración porque, o voy a AA, estoy batallando con estas emociones.
Right.
You look like a fucking fool.
Yeah,
en
and
la
it says
cultura mexicana.
it's a stigma surrounds the words therapy, psychologist, and psychiatrist. There is a misconception that visiting mental health professional means that you are crazy.
Y no estás,
or that there's something terribly wrong with you. Like, estás, like the only people that go to therapy are the crazy people.
Sí.
Like the ones that like aren't right in the head.
Si no estás en un nivel como super mega fatalista. And it's just not, I feel like it's honestly fucked up que no puedas, but it's because of our culture. And when I was reading this article, it's so great that, you dive deeper into what you know, right? Como mujeres, como mexicanas, como hija de mexicanos, conocemos lo que es emotional suppression.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm assuming you weren't always able to show all of your feelings and your emotions because your parents were off working.
Right.
Or because your parents were too worried about working or money that they didn't have the time to give you to listen to your feelings and, all of these things.
Exactly. And I feel like back to what I was saying here, I remember growing up in Mexico, the only people that went to therapy, and I don't know if that's still the case, are the people that were like wrong in the head.
Yeah.
So like if you were suggested to go to therapy, it's like, what do you mean I'm not crazy?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then therefore you didn't.
And what do you do with that? O sea, yo soy una persona que está batallando and I was raised in this cultura.
Right.
Y no, lo normal no es ir a terapia, especially for a man. It's the gender roles that play into emotional suppression are so different. Si eres mujer y estás expresando tus emociones, ay no, hartas siempre con tus putas quejas. Y si eres hombre expresando tus emociones, you're seen as weak, you're seen as less of a man, and
that you're not tough.
Hágase macho, amarres un huevo, hágase hombrecito cabrón. Yeah. And I just already hear like, my grandpa on my mom's side saying that shit. Like if my brother were to ever talk about, abuelito, me siento triste, hágase hombrecito, hijo de la chingada, todo me deje, le doy. And in part, okay, there's things where it's like, okay, there's a lack of motivation, and teaching your kids to work hard will definitely push them para que sean, encuentren esa motivación in a way. But I feel like it's just such a prevalent thing, and it really fucks with people's heads. And they start learn, and until they study psychology, then they can understand, oh, you know what?
It's just how the human brain works. And I feel like it's also the ignorance that is out there. You know what I mean? I feel like, again, like our grandpa didn't know, like, oh, feeling bad is okay. You mean feeling sad is okay? Like I'm not crazy, or because I have this standard, of being tough, or here's a usual one: men don't cry. One,
sí.
Like los hombres no lloran. And so to me, that was it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy how things are, and it's like, well, what do? You're constantly suppressing your emotions. And I was reading an article that says that negative cognitive and emotional factors such as depression, anxiety, anger, and cynical hostility adversely influence and cardiometabolic health. Excuse me, these apparently are
cardiometabolic.
Son big words for me.
Cardiometabolic health. What I'm discounting from when I'm dissecting from that.
It says cardiometabolic health refers to the individual's overall risk of developing diabetes and heart disease.
Right, eating carnitas, birria. It's your diet, like a very fatty diet that's going to affect your diabetes. A cardiometabolic health is something that's unhealthy.
Oh, really? Okay, well, I don't know.
It's not something, a cardiometabolic health, having like a low one, depending on like low or high, it's depending on what you're putting into your body.
Okay, well, this article is stating that all of the emotions and suppressing all of those feelings is what results in all of these things, such as anger, like everything I just named: depression, anxiety, anger, cynical hostility. What is that?
Cínico. Eres un cínico.
Sí, como cínico,
y la hostilidad
hostility.
de eso. Creo que lo que estás mencionando es tan importante, Michelle, porque si te pones a pensar lo que están diciendo, it's your whole body. We talked about this in the microbiome episode, pero tu cuerpo entero está conectado. Right. And it all starts with what you put into your body, what you eat, right? What you eat helps you with your metabolism. And when they're talking about cardiometabolic health, it's connected to your emotions, because when you are eating a lot of like carnes and stuff, I don't know the study, but there was something that I remember. It's in the back of my head, that the way that your the way that your body processes different foods makes you react differently to anger. I think Gati told me about this. Like if you eat more meat, you're more prone to be angry, like have more sporadic feelings of anger.
Oh, wow.
I have to find the article and show you guys, but they're talking about what you eat matters and how it affects your suppression of emotions.
Yeah, exactly. Your suppression of emotions. And then it just dives deeper into as far as machismo. And they have a term here called marianismo, which I had never heard of that before.
Yo tampoco.
But I was trying to, I know that marianismo emphasizes the role of women, family, and home-centered. It encourages passivity, self-sacrifice, and chastity. Or chastity.
Connecting that to my article, and we kind of brought our own articles, and we were going to discuss it like blindly on the podcast. But connecting her article to my article of that role that women have to be passive, submissive, putting the family first. This article described how Mexican culture is it's collectivist. So it's putting family before the individual. And that's, we know this firsthand. Poniendo la familia va primero.
Claro.
Antes de que tú vayas primero, right? And it's collectivist, not individualistic. We see this in the way that the way that women are raised. No, tus hijos primero, tu esposo primero. Ya te casaste, atiende a tu esposo. And then you have this religious aspect of, okay, no te puedes divorciar because it's against our religion. So now te tienes que enfocar en aguantarte y callar tus emociones, callar tus sentimientos. No te quejes con tu esposo porque tú estás en la casa y tu esposo está trabajando y le está trayendo todo el dinero. So it's like, and in that way, women's feelings are suppressed, and it affects women differently than it affects men.
100%.
Yo siento que los hombres, they cope with suppression of feelings through alcoholism, through drug addiction, like different drug addictions, like cigarro.
Now, this is, of course, granted that you're living that traditional life, right? Because most of the couples today's age, like you and I, we're both working. You know what I mean? So this is just us going back a little bit further into like our upbringing.
Yes.
And how that can really impact our parents and our grandparents. And then therefore we are the byproduct of all of these different things that have been going on for generations, right?
Yeah.
And so basically, like I remember growing up, I don't remember one time sitting down about like, what is it that has you sad? Why are you sad? Or maybe if it was a question, it would be like, oh, okay, like it was, you got to brush it off and you got to move on. It wasn't something like, okay, what are we going to do to resolve this?
Yep.
How can we change this?
Yep.
Why are you feeling this way? You know, I never heard. Now things are different. Like the relationship between my parents has changed a lot. And my poor mom, she had to learn 2 different ways, you know, because of all of the way that she was raised. You know, her mom always taught her too to be tough. You know, my abuelita was like, no, you got to be tough. You got to do this. You got to cook and you got to clean. You got to learn, because when you get married, this is what you're going to be doing. That's how my grandma raised my mom, you know? And so like, she never had the talk, you know, when you have with your teenager. She never had like guidance when you're how to, you know, when my mom got married, she got pregnant right away because she had no idea.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like she didn't know things. And it's just like all of those things come with feelings and emotions and frustration, you know, like my mom is like, oh, okay, shoot, now I'm doing this. She
probably had to bottle everything up.
Exactly. And she never got a chance to have a conversation with her mom like mice, because you didn't tell me any of these things, you know? And if she did, my grandma's not going to be like, oh, no. It's like, we don't talk. It's still going to be like, what do you want me to do? That's not how things were handled back then. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And they always blame like the ya pasó, eso está en el pasado. And it's like, no, es importante hablar de estas cosas, de el no hablar de los sentimientos en una manera abierta, porque el problema es that you bottle up the emotions, you bottle up the feelings, y en vez de tener una buena relación con tu pareja, which is what this article talks about, tienes una relación that is so beyond fixing.
Yeah.
It's a normalcy. It becomes normal to suppress your feelings. Él no va a cambiar. Él no quiere cambiar. Él va a seguir tomando. Yo nomás me quedo en la casa. Estoy atrapada. You know, yo no hice carrera. Mi carrera es ser esposa. And I feel like
it's so sad. Like when you're there, you know, and it's like you turn, no matter where you turn, you know, just kind of like remembering, like turning around and talking to your mom about like, mom, like I feel frustrated in this marriage. Like, como tú dices, él no va a cambiar. And then your mother turning around and saying, Ni modo, you know, that's your life, that's your husband.
En vez de que te escuche y te diga, mija, pues trabaja en esto, en lo otro. So this article, let me just touch on it really quick. This article was written by UNAM students. O sea, la Universidad Autónoma de México. And it's titled Mexicans' Emotion Regulation Strategies and Relationship Satisfaction by Gender. So they analyzed 2 constructs, emotional regulation and relationship satisfaction. So what they're doing, they're assessing the relationship of 166 males and 231 females and seeing how they're different and how emotional regulation affects them. By emotional regulation, it means like talking about how you're feeling with your partner. First and foremost, siendo honesto con tu pareja. Pareja, tengo este problema, I don't like you doing this. And solving conflicts together. And solving conflicts together through good and strong communication. It doesn't take the end of the world to solve a conflict. Instead of bottling it up, you know, que llegue tu viejo y te diga, vieja, la neta me sentí bien agüitado hoy. ¿Por qué, viejo? ¿Por qué? Dime, viejo, siéntate, un tequilita, viejo.
Ahorita te lo preparo.
Déjate, preparo un tequilita. ¿Te enseñan a chichi? ¿Qué te doy? Pero algo así, you know, like, ¿por qué un pozolito? Ya te tengo la comida lista. ¿Qué necesitas? ¿Qué pasa? And the same con el viejo. Escuchando a la mujer. Vieja, ¿qué traes? No, pues estos niños, que esto, que el otro. Pues, ¿para qué querías tantos niños, vieja? También tú.
Que no decías que tú eres la que quería 3, así me va a decir Cristian después.
Ajá, exactamente. But they found, essentially, that Mexican families, based on the culture of collectivism, poniendo la familia primero, you lose a part of the self. You lose that individualistic identity that is so important to a strong mental health. They found that stronger emotional regulation is correlated to higher relationship satisfaction. No me puedes decir esto más claro que el agua. Si yo estoy hablando con mi viejo constantemente y estamos no solo sacando los problemas en la mesa, pero trabajando juntos para
funcionar, have a better relationship
arreglar
overall.
Los pinches problemas, your overall relationship is so much stronger.
Right.
Because first of all, together, you're solving problems.
Tú y yo.
Tú y yo, bebé. O sea, tú y yo juntas estamos, we're solving problems. And
Yeah.
you and I, por ejemplo, cuando yo tengo un problema, yo vengo a Michelle. Cuando ella tiene un problema, a veces viene y me platica a mí. Y juntas pensamos, ok, yo te conozco. Y a base de lo que te conozco, esto es lo que debes hacer.
And that's how it should be with your significant other and partner too. It's crazy you talk about those things because I also found an article too that states facts, and this is a series of studies over the past few decades show how suppressing your emotions can and does affect your body and mind, which we already knew. We had discussed it. In fact, a 2013 study by the Harvard School of Public Health and the University of Rochester showed that people who bottle up their emotions increased their chance of premature death from all causes by more than 30%, and the risk of being diagnosed with cancer increasing by 70%. So just think about that for a second.
Holy shit.
They also say that when you don't, and this is a study by the University of Texas, they state that when you don't do this, okay, when you don't discuss your feelings, your emotions, and you don't work collectively as a unit to fix some of these feelings and emotions, found that by not acknowledging your emotions, we're actually making them stronger. Why? Because they reside, they stay, they won't go away.
And this article says that if you don't talk about your emotions, your partner doesn't fucking know what's wrong with you.
Exactly.
So they reside, they get bigger and bigger and bigger because your partner's doing something that isn't comforting those emotions, and they don't even fucking know what's going on, and you're over here like, this motherfucker doesn't even know what the fuck is going on, and
you
he
say
should
that.
fucking read my mind and fucking know what's going on in my brain. No, bitch, you should tell him, hey, baby, guess what? I'm fucking hurting.
Y cuando les digas, les tienes que dibujar como figuritas.
A los hombres sí.
Explicárselos como a nivel preschooler.
Mira, viejo, esta pinche hija de la chingada en la oficina me gritó, oiga, y pues tú no me gritas así, viejo. ¿Tú crees que yo voy a dejar a esta hija de su madre gritarme? Es más claro que el agua. But it's también, y hay muchos daños, Michelle. Estos son daños muy leves, pero hay daños muy grandes del alcoholismo, de golpes, de
golpes de la vida.
Golpes de la vida. Like los putazos que te daban tus papás. Sometimes los papás se pasaban en el rancho. A lo mejor se pasaban, dude.
I heard a story. One of our tias, I don't want to say her name. One of our tias shared that her dad, when she was upset or when he was upset because they did something wrong, they would take him outside, tie him to a tree, and just beat him up.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Me ataba al árbol de afuera so that I wouldn't go away, and then he'd spank me.
Yeah.
I'm like,
that is like fucked up. And to think about your family member doing that to you now, be like, motherfucker, you're not going to do that to me. But
Child services,
sí. Por eso llegamos a los United States para protegernos poquito más. Sí. No, like neta, going back to en serio, that is extremely fucking traumatic. And when you come from that type of childhood trauma, with childhood trauma, you kind of tend to repeat patterns that you learned from your parents. And those parents, they clearly didn't have a good fucking childhood because someone taught them to do that. Someone taught them to atarlos o agarrar la vara y chingarlos con la vara.
Because that's the only way that they learn, right?
A belt, I can handle a belt. I can't handle a fucking branch, dude.
Or a hanger.
Or a hanger, dude.
De vara. Like not even the plastic ones, los delgaditos. Oh, man, esos sí dolían.
Yeah, dude. And it's just now it's so important. I'm just analyzing and researching and doing these things for us and for future generations. For me, it's okay, I have to work with my kids. I have to work with my partner. I have to work with people and learn how to resolve conflicts through communication.
Yeah, I actually, I found in that same article that I was just briefly quoting that it's by, let me see. It's by the Health Agenda, basically. And if you are going through some of these things, they outlined 4 simple steps. There's a psychologist or psychiatrist, I can't remember. We will share all of the articles where we got all of this information down below. Or if you're listening, go on YouTube and you'll find the links there.
Check them out.
Yeah.
My mic was off.
And I wanted to share some of these coping, coping ways, or that can help you, perhaps you, your partner, or just in your life in general. And because I think that it's very important to be able to do that. And they break it down into 4 simple steps. Number 1 is acknowledge the emotion, right? Recognizing you're feeling a particular way is important. And you don't have to do this verbally as long as you acknowledge internally. So just remember, acknowledge, be like, okay, I'm feeling sad. It's there. It is what it is. And that's how I'm feeling. You know, don't suppress it. Just be like, no, I'm not sad. I'm just going to move. No, you're feeling sad. It's okay. Number 2, confront the cause. Okay. So if you're able to confront the person or situation that's triggering the emotion with the goal of resolving it. Okay?
Not with the goal of fighting.
Not with the goal of fighting. Not with any other goal. Remember,
put your hair back down.
Exactly.
No, bitch. Put your hair back down.
Exactly. Like
it's not like that.
It's not like that. This ain't gonna happen like that.
No,
That's
mami.
not how you fix
Esto
the issue.
es para tu salud mental, güey, no para tu salud física.
Okay? Yes, exactly. With the goal of resolving the problem. If this isn't possible, then her name is Tarat. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, if you're ever going to watch this. Advises that becoming an observer to the situation and empowering yourself in the process. So that's just another way. So that's step number 2. Number 3 is owning your response. Okay. So in order to understand what you're feeling, reflect on the way you reacted and dealt with the situation. So this is key. Okay. Oftentimes, when you run into a situation that upsets you and makes you angry or makes you feel, or even both of those emotions, a lot of the times you react.
I think it's like a trigger too. It could be a fucking trigger and you don't even know that it's a trigger.
And so what you do, instead of taking the time to respond, you react versus responding. So I think this is crucial, with owning your response, making sure that it's like, okay, right now, evidently I am very angry. I don't know if this is a good idea for me to be able to move on, or to do anything or until I'm more calm, until I'm able to respond versus react. Okay. And then the last step, it says make time for self-care. And I think this is huge because any self-care activities you find effective, like literally anything that you can do that works for you.
And it's not drinking beer. Okay. Para todos los papás, todos los primos, todos los...
O el tequila.
Para todos los... O las mujeres también que están escuchando esto. Self-care no significa tragar vino, cabrones. Significa
tomárselo.
No traigan pendeja.
I'm kidding.
Sí, cuando no traguen vino, empínenlo, pero poquito. O sea, self-care es que te relajes, que tengas tiempo para ti también poquito. Y si te quieres echar un vinito, una cervecita for self-care, un winecito, también, no hay problema.
No hay pedo.
But self-care isn't, me voy a empedar esta noche y todas las noches.
To cope with all of my issues.
Porque chingue su madre el amor. No, güey.
Emotional damage.
Yo les quiero decir una cosa. These are extremely, really good coping mechanisms, and I appreciate you for sharing them.
Yeah. But I don't know who needed to hear this, but if this was you, ahí está.
I'm looking at this por un lens de una persona that has been emotionally suppressing their feelings for a long time, crónicamente. And there's one aspect to this. Financial ability, having the time. Time is money.
Yeah.
And if you have money, you have more time for yourself. Having the time. And a lot of those stressors now, it's just you don't have enough time for yourself because you're working so hard. So that's one of them. The other one is how do you help someone? Step 1. Because how do you even help someone acknowledge their feelings? Papá, por favor, like for example, if I'm like, papá, siéntate y ponte a pensar lo que estás sintiendo. Ay, quítate, no. Yo no voy a andar pensando en pendejadas y sabe qué y sabe cuánto. There is gonna come a time where you sit your parents down and you tell them, papá, por el respeto que te tengo, quiero que te sientes y me dediques 10 minutos de tu tiempo. And talk about it like that. You know,
sí, dile que las chicas de No Pues Guau dijeron
me
que
dijeron
si no,
mis amigas,
if you suppress your emotions, así dile, that it will affect your body y que se va a morir más pronto.
Sí, que si tú no hablas de cuando te sientes triste, papá,
o que le da cáncer
y nomás tragas vino, tu hígado es el que va a hablar y va a hablar por medio del cáncer, papá, ¿ok? Así es que por favor, por el respeto que me tienes, si me tienes, siéntate 5 minutos, por favor. Así le vas a decir a tu papá. Y no todos tienen la relación con sus papás para hablar así. Yeah. Yo sí la tengo, porque tengo los ovarios bien grandotes. And I've been able to tell my dad, you know what, sit down, we're going to fucking talk about this. I'm feeling sad. Why? It's in the past. It's in the present right here. It's in my fucking mind. So I have to work through it. I have to, I'm trying to communicate with you through it. And there's been cases, like in my case, where you sit your parent down and you express how you feel. Oftentimes they just they don't get it. And unfortunately, I'm sharing this with you. There are going to be times where you're just going to have to move on because the person who you're confronting the cause or you're confronting the issue on step number 2, you acknowledge how you feel, you confront the issue, that's step number 2. And once you do, they won't, my dad, sometimes I'll be like, Dad, it's because you don't do, anyways. There are things missing in this relationship and you don't put in that. There's there's that. And then my dad will just be like, okay, I get it. But I don't think he does, And I think that a big part of your healing process for you to heal and you to just have better relationships with other people, que si no puedes tener esa relación con tus papás, ponlo en las manos de Dios. That's on God. That's between them and God. Or even if you're not religious, that is on, Eso ya quedó. Yo intenté tener una mejor relación por medio de comunicación y de hablar de las emociones, de cómo me estoy sintiendo. Y si ellos no quieren verlo así y ellos no quieren, entonces ellos no tienen que entender esa parte de mi vida. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, es tu vida, tu journey. Right. And emotional suppression, it's about all kinds of relationships and all kinds of socialization. Yeah. And I think we could do a part 2 to this, honestly, because I'd like to talk about child emotional suppression and bring some more data on that, but we're running low on time. But any last thoughts?
But basically, if you're there, again, at least you got to, even if on the other end, there's no true response of acknowledgement that they understand, at least you got that out of your system and it's no longer, like she said, present here. At least you're able to kind of help your brain put it in the storage bin where it's supposed to go versus just having it presence in the trauma aspect of things, because it could be a trauma, you know what I mean? And we've learned this in psychology. Part of trauma, what happens is your brain doesn't get a chance to process things correctly and store them properly where they need to go. So then therefore they're present in your mind. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents. I just wanted to make sure I shared that because we're talking about an issue and I thought it might be a good idea in case you're listening and this is something you're struggling with. Again, acknowledge your emotions, confront the issue, own your response, and make time for self-care. Okay. But that's it. That's it for me.
Escúchenme bien lo que les voy a decir. Hablen de sus emociones. No digo que no se caen el hocico. O sea, con un límite, hablen. Pero, hasta la próxima, mi raza. Los queremos mucho. And we cannot wait to see you guys in the next episode. Ciao.
Ciao. Make sure you talk.
Habla. Sácalo todo. Las chichis también. Libérate.
Be free.